Could low birth rates mean you won't be able to retire until 75? This is Ben Scallon and you're watching Gript Media. The low fertility and birth rates recently seen throughout the world have long been a source of concern for economists. For years now, countries have seen a big decline in the amount of children each family has on average. In fact, an unprecedented number of couples today simply choose not to have children at all. While this may seem like an insignificant personal choice on the surface, it has potentially huge implications for all of our futures. It can mean anything from dramatic tax increases to having the pension age postponed until much later in life. The Irish government has recently come under fire for pushing the retirement age ever closer to the 70 mark, and think tanks like the UK's Centre for Social Justice have suggested that the retirement age should be pushed back to 75. In other words, there are powerful people at home and abroad who think that you should work until you drop. Our lopsided economy demands more and more workers, meaning people have to work later and later into their life before they can retire. This is because we have what is called an aging population. In very simple terms, this means that there are less and less working age people in the economy compared to more and more pensioners. The amount of taxes needed to support so many elderly people has to be taken from an ever-smalling pool of workers, which means a small handful of people have to foot a massive bill. But just how big is this problem? Well, according to the UN, half of all people alive in the world today live in a country where the number of births are below replacement rate, as in the population is decreasing, not increasing. Far from the myth that the planet is overpopulated, there is in fact a serious depopulation crisis plaguing much of the world. Here at home, Ireland's birth rate is currently at its lowest point since records began in 1864, which some have referred to as a baby bust rather than a baby boom. This may explain some of the serious economic problems we've faced in recent years, as outlined in the government report, the National Risk Assessment 2019. The report explains that over the next 40 years, there will be essentially half the number of young people supporting the same proportion of pensioners, which will dramatically increase the financial pressure on working Irish families. Not only that, but this spells even more bad news for the health service. The added number of older people in society will mean that the number of adults with chronic diseases is likely to increase by as much as 40%, with much less working taxpayers to fund services. Whether or not we can meet that added demand with our already strained health service is not at all clear. But this crisis is by no means unique to Ireland. We've seen this pattern play itself out again and again throughout the world. So this begs the question, why? What could be driving the global decline in birth rates? Well, there have been a variety of factors. Practically, the fallout from the 2008 recession and soaring house prices have led many people discouraged from having children. Uncertainty about the future or one's ability to find an affordable home isn't a very conducive state to raise kids in. But on a deeper level, there are also cultural factors at play. For decades, scaremongering stories of overpopulation and climate catastrophe have been pushed by various green activists and pop culture outlets. Couples have been actively discouraged from having children for years. Now, more than ever in human history, it's portrayed by many media outlets as cool and trendy to live the child-free life and avoid parenthood indefinitely. And as we now see, this is set to have disastrous future consequences for our society. So what is the solution? Well, different governments have responded in different ways to this challenge. For example, many countries like Canada have implemented radical euthanasia policies for the elderly, with some citing old people's dependent status as a justification for ending their lives. It's a depraved mindset and one which you'd like to think Irish people would never support. Alternatively, many world governments such as our own have used policies of mass immigration, importing cheap labour from all over the world to flood the gaps in the market. However, countries like Hungary have found a much more effective and natural solution: incentivize more children. If it sounds simple, that's because it is. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has implemented a simple policy of no income tax for life for couples who have 4 or more children. While we wouldn't have to implement that exact policy, ideas like this have been proven to work in Eastern Europe and could just as easily work here. And yet, while our birth rates fall through the floor and our pension time bomb ticks away, Irish leaders have spent the last few years doing everything they can to implement one of the most radical abortion regimes in Europe. While they tell us we need more and more migrant workers to sustain our economy, they encourage the termination of thousands of future workers in the womb. Ireland's abortion rate has tripled since we repealed the 8th, and this has certainly not helped the situation at all. But it's not too late to turn things around. Other countries have bucked this trend of demographic decline successfully, and we can too. But to do it, what Ireland needs is pro-family policies, and it needs them urgently. Otherwise, it's our families who will pay the price. If you like this commentary and you want to see more like it, be sure to share this video and let us know how you feel in the comments below. Thanks for watching.